Jason began driving for Uber 6 months ago after realizing his paycheck was losing ground to rising prices. His regular income no longer stretched far enough, so he decided to add a side gig. The plan seemed reasonable. He would drive about 15 hours per week after finishing his full-time job, earn an extra $1,000 per month, and finally start reducing his credit card balance. The numbers looked straightforward. 15 hours per week multiplied by 4 weeks at $20 per hour came out to roughly $1,200 a month. It felt like simple, guaranteed money. 6 months later, Jason has earned about $6,200 in total Uber revenue before expenses. On the surface, he feels accomplished. He feels busy, disciplined, and responsible. He believes he is doing what ambitious, financially savvy people are supposed to do. Then last week, Jason decided to calculate what those 6 months actually cost him. During that time, he drove approximately 4,200 miles for Uber. Using the IRS standard mileage rate of 67 cents per mile, which includes fuel, wear and tear, maintenance, depreciation, and insurance, his vehicle expenses totaled around $2,800. After subtracting those costs, his real income was closer to $3,400 over 6 months. Jason worked roughly 360 hours to earn that amount. When he divided the numbers, his effective hourly wage ended up being well below the minimum wage in his state. And that was only the beginning. Jason had not included the unpaid time spent waiting for ride requests, cleaning his car, driving to busy zones, or managing the app between passengers. He had not accounted for the additional stress that reduced his effectiveness at his main job, ultimately resulting in a weaker performance review and a smaller raise compared to his coworkers. He had not factored in the weekend he spent sick after months of inadequate sleep weakened his immune system. He had not considered the strain on his relationship after canceling date night 3 weeks in a row because surge pricing made it feel irresponsible to log off. Jason earned $3,400, but he lost far more than that in ways he never measured. And Jason is not unusual. He is the norm.
My name is Rob, and I spent the last 4 months breaking down why the side hustle economy pushes people to work longer hours while accumulating less wealth. If you have a side hustle that feels like a second job but never seems to move you forward, if you are exhausted yet still struggling financially despite working nights and weekends, this is for you. What I'm about to show you is the hidden math behind side hustles, why additional work often produces lower financial returns, why untracked costs quietly consume your income, and why the entire cultural story around side hustles may be keeping people financially stuck while convincing them they are being productive. I call this phenomenon the side hustle squeeze. Once you see the real numbers, you will never look at extra income the same way again. Here is the part social media entrepreneurs and YouTube gurus rarely mention. Most side hustles generate a negative return on investment when all costs are honestly included. According to a Bankrate survey conducted in 2023, approximately 39% of American adults have a side hustle. The average reported monthly income from those side hustles is around $810. That sounds helpful, nearly $10,000 per year, but that figure represents gross income, not net income. The gap between those two numbers is where the side hustle squeeze exists. Let us look at common examples. Delivery driving for platforms like DoorDash, Uber Eats, or Instacart often advertises earnings between $20 and $25 per hour. However, research from the Economic Policy Institute shows that once vehicle expenses, self-paid payroll taxes, and unpaid downtime are included, the typical hourly wage drops to roughly $10 to $12 per hour. For many drivers, it falls even lower.
That calculation still ignores accelerated vehicle depreciation. A car designed to last 200,000 miles reaches the end of its useful life much sooner when an additional 15,000 miles per year are added for delivery work. In effect, drivers convert their car's long-term value into small weekly payments while telling themselves they are earning income. Freelance and consulting work presents a similar illusion. Advertised rates of $50, $75, or $100 per hour hide the true return. For every hour of paid work, most freelancers spend 1 to 2 additional hours on unpaid tasks, such as marketing, proposals, revisions, emails, invoicing, administration, and ongoing skill maintenance. A freelancer charging $50 per hour while spending equal time unpaid is effectively earning $25 per hour. After self-employment taxes of roughly 15%, that number drops closer to $21 per hour. If that freelancer left a salaried role paying the equivalent of $35 per hour with benefits, the freelance rate is not a raise, it's a disguised pay cut. The most important costs, however, are not the obvious ones. The largest losses usually come from invisible costs: opportunity cost, health cost, and cognitive cost. Opportunity cost is what you give up by choosing one use of time over another. If you work 15 hours per week on a side hustle that nets $8 per hour after expenses, you earn $120 per week. But what if those same hours were spent developing skills that increased your main salary by $5,000 per year? What if they were spent resting, recovering, and improving performance at your primary job, leading to promotions? What if they were invested in relationships that opened better opportunities? The real question is not whether you're earning $8 per hour. The question is whether $8 per hour is the best possible use of your time. For most people, it is not. A Harvard Business Review study from 2019 found that workers who invested time in skill development increased their earnings by roughly 10 to 20% over 5 years. 15 hours per week spent learning high-value skills such as programming, data analysis, sales, or negotiation could permanently raise a $60,000 salary by $6,000 to $12,000 annually. No gig economy platform can compete with that return. Health costs are just as significant and are almost never included in side hustle calculations. Chronic sleep deprivation, common among people working full-time jobs plus side gigs, is linked to impaired cognition, weaker immune systems, higher disease risk, and lower productivity. A 2022 report from the Rand Corporation estimated that sleep deprivation costs the United States economy over $400 billion per year. On a personal level, working an extra 15 to 20 hours per week means sleeping less, exercising less, and recovering less. The decline in job performance, the additional sick days, and the long-term health consequences are future costs that will eventually come due, and they will far exceed what you earned delivering food at night. The third invisible cost is cognitive load. Mental energy is limited. Research on decision fatigue shows that each decision consumes cognitive resources. Running a side hustle requires dozens of extra decisions every day. Which jobs to accept, when to work, how to route deliveries, how to handle difficult clients, how to find more work. Every one of those decisions drains mental capacity that could otherwise be used for strategic career thinking, creative problem solving, or investment planning. People caught in constant hustle are often too mentally depleted to pursue the opportunities that would actually change their financial future. They are working inside their lives with no energy left to work on their lives. The cruelest part of the side hustle squeeze is who it affects most. The people who can least afford to waste time on low-return activities are the most likely to do so. If your primary income is not enough, you are likely stressed, tired, and operating in survival mode. You see money hitting your account and feel productive. You do not see the invisible costs accumulating, the declining health, the stalled career, the missed opportunities. The side hustle feels like a solution. For many, it is part of the trap. Not all side hustles are equal. Some genuinely build wealth. The difference lies in leverage. Low-leverage side hustles trade time for money with strict limits. Driving for Uber is low leverage. Income is capped by hours. Rates decline as competition increases, and nothing of lasting value is created. High-leverage activities build assets, skills, or systems. Creating a course, building software, or developing a content platform can generate returns that continue long after the initial work is finished. The problem is that high-leverage opportunities require the very resources the side hustle squeeze destroys: uninterrupted time, mental clarity, creative energy, and financial runway. Someone working 20 extra hours per week just to cover expenses rarely has the capacity to build scalable assets. Low-leverage work keeps them trapped by consuming the time and energy needed to escape it. This is the squeeze. Working more, earning less, too exhausted to change course.
Here is how to evaluate whether your side hustle is helping or hurting you. First, calculate your true hourly rate by tracking every minute spent, including unpaid tasks, waiting, commuting, learning, and recovery. Divide net income after all expenses by total hours. If that number is lower than your primary job's effective rate, you are losing ground. Second, assess the invisible costs: sleep, health, relationships, job performance, and missed opportunities matter, even if they are not listed on a spreadsheet. Third, apply the replacement test. Ask whether the same hours spent on skill development, networking, or recovery would produce a higher return over 5 years. Fourth, define your escape velocity. If you cannot clearly explain how your side hustle transitions from time for money work into scalable or passive income, you are not building an asset. You are working a second job that pays less than your first. You may see yourself as someone who hustles, grinds, and does what it takes. That identity feels virtuous in a culture that equates busyness with worth. But it is possible to work harder than ever while building less wealth than ever, draining yourself on activities that feel productive while consuming the resources needed for meaningful progress. The side hustle economy promised freedom. For many, it delivered faster treadmills. Jason is still driving for Uber. He is too tired to think clearly about alternatives and too invested in the sunk cost of his vehicle to quit. He keeps telling himself he will find something better next month. Next month never arrives because he is always too busy working to figure out how to stop. The side hustle squeeze has him exactly where it wants him, earning $9 per hour for platforms that take a significant cut, while he slowly burns through his car, his health, and his future options. Stop measuring hustle by how busy you are. Start measuring it by what you are actually building. I have spent an unhealthy amount of time analyzing this, so you do not have to. If this changed how you see your side hustle, consider subscribing. I will see you next time.